Shit test anyway, and how do I handle them? Now, this is a great question because this is an area that so many people misunderstand in game. Now, let's start out with what a shit test isn't. A shit test is not a rejection, and a shit test is not a flat-out insult. So, you're ugly and smell bad is just an insult, right? Fuck off, I'm leaving is a rejection. What a shit test is a girl that's saying something to you that is potentially negative, or something that puts you more technically in an unhelpful frame. And I'll talk to you about what a frame is in a minute, right? But where it comes from is that the girl is emotionally reactive to you, but hasn't made a decision in your favor yet, okay? And in a sense, that means it's a good thing, okay? Because getting the girl emotionally reactive to you is a first very positive step in getting a girl to like you. For example, a lot of beginner guys, when they first start out talking to girls, they actually don't get shit tests, and this is actually a problem. So if you go up to a girl and she's just very nice to you and very sweet to you and then says, okay, nice to meet you, and leaves, that means you were tolerated. That means she was being polite to you and nice to you until she could, politely leave, and she did that, and she didn't feel the need to test you. She didn't feel the need to give you a hard time because you were not close enough to being in the category of guys she would sleep with for you to merit getting a shit test. As guys get to intermediate, they tend to get a lot of shit tests because now they are a sexual threat. Now that it's a legitimate possibility they will sleep with this girl, and the girl is, emotionally reactive in some way. However, the impression is not so favorable that the girl has just bought in and decided, and so the girl gives them tests. And what these are, another word for shit test is congruence test. It's a test of whether you are going to live up to what you've promised. So you've gone in and you've been maybe a cocky guy, or you've been a guy that's shown some attractive qualities, but it's very, very easy to fake attractive qualities. It's very, very easy to go up and have a cute pickup line. It's very, very easy to act confident in the face of no bad response, right? The Mike Tyson line, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's kind of like that. So every guy has a plan until the girl throws some shit at them. That moment when the guy gets a shit test is going to tell the girl a lot about him. If he can handle it, she'll start to believe he's the real deal because it's an honest signal. It's harder to fake passing a shit test than it is to fake being confident in the first place. If the guy fails the shit test, that's going to be an honest signal he was full of shit, that he wasn't as attractive a guy as she thought, and then that's going to hold back his efforts of actually, getting a good relationship with her, seducing her, et cetera, okay? So when a girl gives you a shit test, I want you to think of it as two things. Number one, a compliment. It means she's emotionally reactive to you. Number two, it's an opportunity. Because if you pass that shit test, her level of attraction for you is going to go way, way, way up. In fact, what's a lot harder to deal with than a shit test is what we call the hot girl blasé, which is when they just kind of like quietly tolerate you or quietly don't tolerate you, but they don't give you a shit test. They don't give you something to work with, okay? So shit tests are good. Now, how do you handle shit tests? Well, the first thing to do is don't mess up. Okay, so in order to pass a shit test, level one is non-failing the shit test. What that means is not getting emotionally reactive, not getting defensive, not getting combative, not having a negative resulting action as a result of the shit test. So an example of non-failing a shit test, I had a friend in Los Angeles who was very, very good at game, and he had a phrase that worked to non-fail any shit test. So if the girl gives him a shit test, his response was, yeah, I have no response for that. Can we just be normal now? Okay, so it's not brilliant, it's not incredible, it's not showing you as the coolest guy in the world, but what it is saying is, I don't care that much that you shit tested me. I'm secure enough in myself to not be emotionally reactive to that, and I'm actually kind of pointing out the fact that you're being weird by giving me a shit test, right? So you are actually putting the girl on the spot a little bit. Now, problems with that, you can't say that's every single shit test. You get shit tested 4 times in a set and you say, yeah, I have no response for that, can we be normal 4 times? It starts to look pretty weird. That's number one. Number two, remember I said a shit test is an opportunity. You're not maximizing that opportunity, but at the very least, you're not failing the shit test, you're not losing because of that opportunity. So that's non-failing a shit test. And you could look at ignoring a shit test, which is another answer people give to shit test, ignoring it as another version of non-failing a shit test. So that can be very effective as well. If the shit test is not so compelling and not so much a present part of the conversation that you can just ignore it and pretend it wasn't said, that can work as well. However, there are 2 really amazing ways to pass a shit test that will put you at a higher level, okay? And those are agree and exaggerate and misinterpret. So agree and exaggerate, basically you're going to take whatever the frame, I told you we'd get back to it, whatever the frame of a shit test is, and you're going to point out the ridiculousness of it. So what is a frame? A frame is really what a shit test is all about. A frame is the assumptions underlying a conversation that dictate its meaning. So if you walk up to a girl She might have the frame that here's this guy hitting on me, which puts you at a lower value. You might have the frame, this amazing guy is talking to her and she's lucky for this opportunity, which would put you at higher value, right? And so what's going to happen is you have a frame, she has a frame, those frames are in conflict. And really what the shit test is about determining who has the stronger frame, determining which frame is going to be the frame you're both going to agree to in having this conversation, having this interaction, because unless there's agreement, there is no interaction, okay? So what you're doing sometimes is you're taking the negative frame she's putting you in and you're showing, one, I'm okay with it, and two, you're pointing out the ridiculousness. So an example of this, say a girl gave you the common shit test. Is that your line? Do you say that to all the girls or do you say it to every girl? Well, an agree and exaggerate response to that might be like, yes, I say that to every girl. I've said it 500 times a day. It was weird when I said it to my grandma though. Do you think maybe I should stop doing that? Right, so there you're pointing out, like she said, do you say this to every girl? You're pointing out how ridiculous and absurd it would be to say it to every girl and how silly her question is, right? And the fact that you've been witty, you've been clever, and the fact that you still clearly don't care because you're willing to take that negative frame and just adopt it like, yes, put me on that negative frame, I'm fine with it. In fact, I'll go to the extreme of that negative frame to the point that it's ridiculous. And so that's one good way to pass a shit test, okay? And that's agree and exaggerate. So you take whatever the frame is and take it to its logical conclusion to show its absurdity and also to show that you're not afraid of it, right? If you're resistant of the frame or if you're scared of the frame, that's low value. If you're like, okay, fine, put me in that frame. Let's just look at how ridiculous that is. That's pretty high value. It also shows a lot of ability to think under pressure. It shows a lot of ability to kind of hold your own when put under stress, which is a very attractive trait. The